All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the recap. Michael D'Angelo, and he's back from outer space. Mr. Big D, Daryl Ortiz. Good to see you, my friend. I know the natives were getting restless not seeing you for the last couple of weeks, but I hope you're doing well.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate you covering for me there. I was out down for the count for a little bit, but I am back 80-90%, but I'm there. We'll be all
Yeah,
right.
90% is doing good enough, we'll say.
That's the new
90%.
100%. Let's just do that.
It's like 80 to 90%. That's pretty much any John Cena match at this point. I'm just
Exactly.
kidding. But seriously, so John Cena continues to roll, coming off a Backlash, and it's odd. They've got so many events stacked. So you have Backlash, then coming up next week already is Saturday Night Main Event, and then coming up shortly after that
Two
is
weeks
Money in the
after
Bank,
that.
because we started the Money in the Bank qualifiers are starting. So fast and furious matchmaking, a little overwhelming, but let's get into it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot to keep up with, but at the same time, not much happened. We had
Yeah,
just pretty much
yeah.
set up on Raw for Saturday Night Main Event. We had, of course, promo from the beginning that ended up resulting in Jey Uso, CM Punk, and Sami Zayn standing tall versus Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Paul Heyman. Of course, that's going to lead in somehow turned into, because Jey Uso obviously is going to have a match with Logan Paul, spoiler alert. That's going to be Sami Zayn and CM Punk versus Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins at Saturday Night's Main
Main
Event.
event.
Yeah. Something tells me though, in watching all this and kind of as the night progressed, something's kind of telling me that Sami Zayn might be joining Seth Rollins because they have
Do
a
you
third
think so?
member. I think so. I think there's something going on there because there's just little subtle things that he does and little blips in the moment where he just, I don't know, something about him just seems a little different, and I'm wondering if that's what we're going to see on Saturday Night's Main Event. Maybe we'll see a heel turn for Sami Zayn, and he joins up with Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. That's what I'm thinking. Again, it's just an inkling, but I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
I
I
don't
mean,
know. I mean, I wonder kind of what the intention is here. And I had thrown
hmm
out there this week talking about Finn Balor potentially being
hmm
the mystery person that joins, because
yeah,
I feel like if you're gonna try to build this stable, and they haven't named them yet, they haven't called
Mm-mm.
Seth Rollins' group isn't really called anything, but
hmm
they're building the stable up. So you've got Paul Heyman is kind of he's the wise man for this group.
yeah,
It feels like it should all be heavy hitters, and I'm like, Sami Zayn's just not a heavy hitter for me. You got Braun Breaker is kind of like the future. You have Seth Rollins is kind of, we'll call him the now or the past.
hmm
I don't know, however you want to phrase it. I'm looking at like kind of like evolution when
yeah.
it was like Triple H, Ric Flair, Batista, and Randy Orton. I'm like, you got to get Finn Balor, because Finn Balor's obviously going to break away from Judgment
Yeah,
Day.
that's becoming more and more pertinent as the weeks go on.
Yeah, they're gonna move him on, but I feel like they're not gonna have him just go on and do singles stuff. So what a coup it would be if they brought Finn Balor in as like the additional guy. That'd be great. I just don't think I don't know that they're gonna do it, but
I
they've
mean,
they've set it up to where it could happen. I'm just
it
wondering if
could.
they'll do it.
Yeah, I'm curious how that's going to work out, but I don't know. Just something, I don't know. Even if Sammy doesn't join up with Seth and Braun, I just, I don't know. Something's off there. But
Yeah.
or we could all get swerved and it could be CM Punk.
Yeah. You never know. Yeah. They gotta find something for CM
It's
Punk to
typical
do. So
WWE fashion, make a hard left
hard
and
left. You're like,
just
wait a second. Why is he aligned with Seth Rollins now? This doesn't make any sense.
he's gonna be like, "Jokes on you! I asked Paul Heyman to hit me down low."
You're like,
I mean, I don't know.
really? Yeah, that'll be the explanation. Wouldn't surprise me at this point with the uneven
Who
storytelling.
knows? Who knows? But after that, we had Penta versus Chad Gable, and kind of like a rematch in their prior match. Of course, Penta just looking strong as ever. Chad Gable put up a great match as well.
Yeah.
These two put on a good match together. I mean, they just work really well together. Again, hats off to Chad Gable. He is such a great worker, amazing athlete, and he did really, really well with Penta, and Penta showing off his skills as well. Was able to get it was kind of like a roll up to escape the
Mm-hmm.
ankle lock and get the win. He actually, I'm lying, he hit the Mexican Destroyer
Mexican
for the
Destroyer.
win.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like, wait, no, he hit the Mexican Destroyer. The roll up was a close count. That was actually a really clever one. But yeah, the Mexican Destroyer for the victory. Again, nothing flashy or crazy about it. Just Penta shining as always. I think they've been hinting to him and Rey Fenix joining together because he did mention the Lucha Brothers in a promo before with Chad Gable. So maybe that's what it's going to turn into, because on SmackDown, we'll talk about that too. But you kind of had Andrade kind of sowing the seeds with Rey Fenix. And I think that'd be a great trio.
Oh yeah, I
Honestly,
think
that
so.
would be an amazing trio because they had, what was it, Death Triangle with, hell, um, Pac
Mm.
in AEW.
Yeah.
It was the Lucha Bros and Pac. They were Death Triangle, so they did really well as trios as well. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But the
Yeah.
match was great. I enjoyed it.
Match is really, really solid stuff, and I like Chad Gable a lot. Obviously, they had him lose when he wasn't in his El Grande Americano persona because they're trying to show like he can't beat the Luchadors unless he has the metal plate
Yeah,
in his mask. But this was good stuff. Match
yeah,
was always entertaining, and then the rest of American Made was also in action like right after this too. So I was like,
yeah.
we got
Creed
Chad Gable,
Brothers.
and then we got the American Made tag team that was out there against the War
War
Raiders.
Raiders. Yeah,
Right
yeah.
after.
The Creed Brothers against the War Raiders. War Raiders. Sorry. And you had New Day at ringside doing commentary, of course, which I love. I love New Day
Yeah,
on
that was good
commentary.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're just awesome at commentary. But yeah, so that pretty much was Creed Brothers taking the victory. Obviously, distractions were done by New Day because obviously I like that Michael Cole's now like totally unbiased, like totally biased now. And he's like calling them out on like, you just because you just want to face the Creed Brothers because you don't want to face the War Raiders.
Oh, which I'm thinking the Creed brothers are like incredible. Like
I was about to
to try
say,
to
like, are
pretend
you really like think that they're
that
lesser?
really they want to face the Creed brothers because it's an easier out than the War Raiders. I'm like, I feel like the
No, they're
Creed
not.
brothers are more tough tag team than the War Raiders are. It doesn't like trying to sell me on that was like the bait and switch if they want to face the weaker tag team. And I'm like, come
Yeah.
on, that's a bit of a stretch.
I agree. I agree. But I mean, we're gonna see what happens with that. Of course, the Creed brothers are gonna hit the Brutus ball, which is actually I like that finisher. It's a fun tag team finisher for the win. But yeah, so that was that. After that, we had Jey Uso and Logan Paul going at each other to talk about that they're gonna have their match at Saturday Night's Main Event. Obviously, it's a title match because, of course, Logan Paul will just get a title match at random, and Gunther saying he's going to challenge the winner. Nothing fancy there, just your
Yeah.
basic trash talking, setting up Saturday night's main event. That's really all it was. So
Yeah,
clearly,
not
Jey
looking
Uso is going to
forward
win.
to. I'm not looking forward to Logan Paul versus Jey Uso. It is Logan Paul's obviously a good athlete. There's no build up to this,
No,
and then they'll immediately move on. I'm glad they're putting Gunther back into the world title picture and talking
yeah,
about that versus having him wrestle commentators. So that's cool.
yeah. Although that was a fun match with Pat McAfee, it's not ideal for somebody of his caliber. Like
Yeah,
it's
it's a
not
step
like
back. Like I don't think it did anything at all for Gunther,
no,
and it was way too competitive. That was the other thing too, where I know there's
yeah.
interference from Michael Cole. It was a very long match,
Terrible
and
interference from Michael Cole. I
yeah,
was like, God damn
terrible,
it, Cole, get
terrible,
it together.
terrible. But I'm like looking at it going, this is way too competitive. Like he should have squashed Pat McAfee and that should have been that. But they had him do the whole here and disrespect. And I'm like, this doesn't do anything for Gunther.
Yeah,
Let's not job him out to people he shouldn't get jobbed out to.
yeah.
This will be nice to see him probably presumably going up against Jey Uso unless we see some shocking thing where they put the title on Logan Paul, which I don't think will.
No, I don't think they will. But again, I think Jey Uso is just starting his title run. He's going to run for a while, so we'll see how that goes. We had a great match after that with AJ Styles, Finn
Yeah.
Balor. Of course, that means who it is, and I love that they're still referencing the Bullet Club with them because, of course, Finn
Both
Balor is
former
the
leaders.
founder and
Yeah.
creator of the Bullet Club, and AJ Styles was a leader at one point back in New Japan. So I love that. I've always been a fan of that. So I like that I love the Bullet Club. I got my Bullet Club shirts put away. But anywho, waiting for that reunion is what I'm hoping for. I've been hoping for that, but it was a fun match. It was a good match. Obviously, Dominic Mysterio wasn't there, but you had shenanigans coming in, and of course, Penta comes out for the save, hits a Mexican Destroyer to Carlito off the back of JD McDonough, which was insane to see. Like that was actually a really, really cool spot. I love that spot. It was enough of a distraction for AJ Styles to hit the phenomenal forearm, get the victory on Finn Balor. Again, Finn Balor, just that dissension, right? Like him talking about that, now they're distracting his matches and they're throwing him off and they're not letting him do him. So we'll see how that goes. I mean,
We'll see how it goes. Continuing
see
to
how
build
long
up.
it takes before that actually the
Yeah, and they've been building this dissension thing for months and months and months and months. So,
but the bigger
they've
question,
done a nice job with the long-term storytelling here.
right?
The bigger question.
The bigger question though is who's going to initiate? Are the Judgment Day going to kick Finn out, or is Finn going to turn on the Judgment Day?
I think it's probably going to be Finn. I'm going to say Finn turns on. Finn's been passive aggressive with everybody, and yeah, you could probably say that Judgment Day realizes it, so they finally just have enough with him. But I think it'll still be Finn. For some reason, I feel like they're trying to make the rest of the Judgment Day look like the good guys in this scenario. It's hard to say.
Finn's not being a team player.
All right, Finn's being a bad teammate, which he is. I mean, let's just be honest here. He's being
hesitating on interference and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, I'm curious how that happens. But after that, we had a Becky Lynch promo again, just further explaining herself and all
Mhm.
that good stuff.
She's
I mean,
coming for everybody, and she's
yeah,
disgruntled.
she's upset. She's
She's
mad
mad.
as heck, and she's not taking it anymore.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. I'd rather see Becky Lynch wrestle, but I get it. They're trying to add layers to her character,
Yeah.
so I could appreciate that. It's just, we'll see where this ends up going, because
Yeah,
obviously
but
she's going.
the layers though were like her just basically pulling a page from John Cena's playbook
Yeah,
and making fun of the
copy
crowd
paste.
and blaming the crowd and blaming the fans. And I was like, is that like the default thing now? Of here's why a beloved hero is now turned heel is because you fans are terrible and you fans suck. Like if
Yeah.
I get John Cena doing it because John Cena has gotten a lot of grief from fans over the
Well,
years,
yeah,
so
yeah, everyone, even when he
that
was a
makes
face,
sense.
he got booed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got booed all the time. So I think it logically makes sense for him to do that. Becky Lynch, like the fans have always been really great.
I know
I
she
mean,
always gets the pop, heel or
she gets
face.
a
She always
great
got a pop.
pop. Nobody booed her out of the building or did anything like that to her. So it feels a little bit of a reach, and like it's this is an easy out for her to say it's the crowd, and she still get some cheap heat on her, but it is what it is. That's what she's
Yeah,
doing. Come
we'll
for
see how it
everybody.
goes. We'll see what the end game is here. But after that, we had the main event tag team, which was nice to see a women's tag team match main eventing. There, you had Io Sky, Rhea Ripley against Roxanne Perez and Julia. That was actually a fun match. It had Rhea Ripley hitting the Razor's Edge, which I was interesting,
Yeah.
and then get hit with the basement drop kick to get it, get a kick out there. You had an over the moonsault, but again, a lot of saves from the teammates. So not necessarily like kicking out of finishers, but you had like save, which is good in a tag team. That's what you expect. And then you had a inadvertent hit from Roxanne to Julia after Rhea Ripley kind of threw her down. So you had Rhea Ripley hit the riptide on Julia for the win. So after SmackDown's announcement of Julia going to SmackDown, I think that's probably the end of that tag team. But
Yeah. Well, it was like she got rewarded for losing in the main event by being signed to SmackDown. That's where I was like, really? Like, okay. And Julia's great. You knew they were calling her up to the main roster. It's just
yeah,
kind of
of
odd
course.
timing of you have her lose, and then like next week, Nick Aldis is like, I like the way you lost on Monday Night Raw. Welcome to
You can
SmackDown.
take a pin like
Yes.
nobody else.
I know. It's like I've got some people that you can lay down for on SmackDown. It's like, okay, I don't know. So but yeah, it was solid main event. Like I
Yeah.
felt like Rhea was a little bit too kind of giggly and friendly with Io the whole time. It was just like, hey
Yeah,
girl, we're pals kind of
it
thing.
kind of it kind of it kind of takes away from her character. And I guess maybe because we're old school, right? Like we grew up like with Undertaker never breaking character, like
Yeah.
ever.
Well, and Stone Cold was giving everybody stunners, even when he's on good terms with you and he
Yeah,
has a beer. He
exactly.
gives you a beer and then he stuns you.
He
So it
lived
was
the
like,
gimmick, right? Like that's every day.
yeah,
But I mean, I get it. It's a new era, and so I guess I need to get over that piece. But again, it was a little odd because Rhea Ripley's more like the serious, like ass kicker, and then you have her kind of giddy and stuff. It's kind of like, I get it, but it is what it is. But I enjoyed the match. It was a good tag team match. It was a good way to close out Raw. Nothing really much came of that aside from Julia going to SmackDown. I mean, overall, Raw was a decent show. I like the timing of them now. It's sitting right around like 2.5 hours is where it's sitting. So I kind
yeah,
of
which
like
is like
that.
just the right amount of time.
Yeah,
It
it
really
gets
is.
enough in. So I'm happy with that. But yeah,
And I
that
think
was Raw
SmackDown's kind of 2.5 hours technically, but then it's a 3 hour
with the
show
ad
because of all
breaks.
the
Yeah,
commercials for the ad breaks. And SmackDown, I thought was the better show this week in terms of
yeah,
wrestling.
I agree.
But it was the same thing. It was kind of like the mad dash to try to fill out cards, and they did more for Money in the Bank because they had a couple of Money in the Bank qualifiers
Yes,
that happened, and then did some match announcements. But it opened with Solo Sokoa, Jacob Fatu, and now Jeff Cobb, corn on the cob.
he's not Jeff Cobb no
He's
more. He's
now.
JC
I was like,
Mateo.
JC Matei. I was like, that didn't take long for them to completely rebrand him. But here's what I think is silly about that. When they announced him, and I talked about that for Backlash,
When he
like,
came
wait
out.
a minute, who's that? That's Jeff Cobb, the hottest
Yeah,
free agent. And everyone's like, huh? Who?
yeah.
And I know like, people who follow independent wrestling know who he is. Most of the fans, it was like crickets because they were like, who's this guy? We don't know who he is. Like, is this Rhino's son? Who's this guy? So he comes out and they just going Jeff Cobb, Jeff Cobb, Jeff Cobb. And then Solo announced him as JC. And I was like, oh, okay, so they just shortened Jeff Cobb to JC. That makes sense. But then on the little
And
Chiron
Solo.
later on, they put JC Mateo. And I was like, why is his last name Mateo now? Like that was a little odd for me. They just had to go with the full rebranding here.
Yeah, I'm
But
not a fan of the name. I would tell you that right now. I'm not a huge
yeah,
fan of the name. They should just kept him as Jeff Cobb, and
yeah.
let him build the name with the mainstream fans. Because you're right, independent scene, we all know who he is. Jeff Cobb's an amazing athlete. He's a freaking animal, and we got a glimpse of that, later on. But
At the expense of LA Knight, which I wasn't happy with either. But it's like,
somebody had to take it.
not LA Knight. Like, okay. But so before we get to that, they all came out, and then Solo was like, basically he's going to be Money in the Bank later on in the evening, and then you did the continuation of the debate between him and Jacob of like Jacob setting Solo straight for Solo trying to take too much credit, and then Jacob's like, I said I wasn't going to do, rip the mic away from him. They argued a little bit back and forth, and then it got a little awkward because Solo's like, you don't tell me that you love me like you used to.
Oh, that was awkward.
That was a little odd. Where he's like, say it like you used to, like you love me.
I'm not
That was a
okay.
little
So,
much.
so here's my thing. I am not a fan of all of a sudden now Jacob is like back to talking and being the leader again because
For Solo, you mean?
yeah, I'm
Solo's
sorry,
supposed to be the
Solo.
leader.
So
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
so sorry, Solo. I'm not a fan of Solo all of a sudden just stepping back into the spotlight and being like, okay, I'm back in charge. Like, just because from a character perspective, I get it because that's the type of
yeah.
hero that he is. Like that's the type of leader he was with Bloodline 2.0, and then he brought Jeff Cobb over. Or I'm sorry, Chase. I'm not going to call him that. They
JC
brought Jeff Cobb.
Mateo.
They brought Jeff Cobb over, and he brought him over to help out and all that good stuff, and that's great. However, I him trying to steal Jacob's catchphrases, trying to take credit for it, trying to ride that
Yeah.
lightning wave. I'm just like, I know it's intentional, and I know it's meant to irk us, meant to bother us, because that's part of his
Yeah.
character
Well,
development.
and they're going towards the split here too. So
Yeah, you could just tell by Jacob's demeanor. Even when they were going up the steps, he went the other way because that's the way he likes to go. Little things, I guess, little details. But I mean, I'm curious as to how this is going to play out, all the way through. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm not a fan of how they're doing it, but we'll see.
yeah, we'll see. It was a little too much of like, you don't send me flowers, you don't write me love songs. There's a little much of that from Solo. Doesn't send him flowers anymore. And then Ellie Knight jumped out and attacked JC as revenge during this whole thing. And this is all the precursor for later on in the evening. And then we jump to the first Money in the Bank, first match and first Money in the Bank qualifier match for the women's side was Michin, Chelsea Green, and Alexa Bliss. Match was fine. They had a lot of like commercial breaks throughout.
They did.
Solid stuff. Lexa Bliss did win in advance, which I think was the right decision
I
here.
think that was the best call. Yes.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Even though it did come at the expense of Chelsea Green because
Yeah.
she took the Sister Abigail DDT. Although I will say that setup takes too long on the Sister Abigail DDT. Where like what was cool about Sister Abigail is you just drop somebody, you kiss them, and you flip them back. She drops them, and then she has to do the whole arm underneath. Like it gives them so much time that anybody should be able to counter out of that pretty easily. It takes a little too long to set it up. I just wish she would just do the Sister Abigail flatliner. For me, would be better, but I get she's trying to do a variation of it, so it's not just she's doing Bray Wyatt's move. Setup's taken a little too long, but she did advance. I do like the match selection for Alexa too, because she had the Royal Rumble, which was obviously a group match because she's coming back. Then her first match back last week was a tag match, so she didn't have to do like full time one-on-one singles wrestling. Triple threat here, so it kind of gives her a little bit more time to ramp up. So she hasn't had a singles match yet, and then her next match presumably is going to be Money in the Bank ladder match, which is another group match. So it's a good way to kind of ramp her back in because she's getting back up to speed, so she's not just jumping straight into a singles match. So I like that for her. She's looking good, but I think it definitely benefits her with the match selections that's been moving forward. So she will be advancing to women's Money in the Bank.
I'm glad she is. I'm glad they're putting her back in the picture like that, and I'm excited. I'm excited for it because she's done well in Money in the Bank matches before.
Mm-hmm.
This match
Yeah, she won before.
yeah, she looked good this morning. I mean, this morning. I'm sorry, she looked good at this match,
Yeah,
and I was actually very happy to see her take the victory. I was hoping she would win, so I'm
yeah,
very glad that she did.
yeah. So this was good stuff, and then we saw Fraxium again, fourth week in a row. Fraxium versus DIY. They were 3-0 heading into this one. Therefore, they're 4-0. They did win. This one was a really great match, though. But I almost get like hesitation of they're treating Fraxium much like they did Motor City Machine Guns when they first came in. It's like hot start, winning everything.
Yeah,
I don't know that they're going to win. They do have a tag team titles match next week with the Street Profits. Now this kind of earned them into that.
That's
I
going to be
don't
their
think they're
loss.
going to win there. It should be an awesome match, but they're on a hot streak. DIY looked great. Ciampa's getting the beard growing back in. He's reverse Samson over here. Thank God. The beard's coming back, so his superpower should be returning with it. But this was just fun stuff, but you kind of knew they were going to let the momentum of Fraxium continue.
Yeah, but it was a great match, though. It was very entertaining. Fraxium just so fast. There was a couple botches here and there.
Yeah,
But again,
I mean,
that's meant to happen when you're just trying to find your rhythm in the main roster. It's a different crowd for sure.
definitely.
But I'm glad they gave them the victory. Motor City Machine Guns comes out to congratulate them and all that good stuff. But again, they're not going to win their tag team title match. I promise that.
Yeah, it's too early. I'd be really surprised if it took off the Street Profits that quickly. And then we had the very awkward R-Truth interview. I'll say awkward in the sense that there was nothing funny here.
No.
Like it was him being kind of overly serious, and that basically, long story short, he's fighting John Cena at Saturday Night Main Event, non-title match next Saturday, which is like not really anything that I want to see at this point. R-Truth's fun, but he's fun from a comedy aspect. If they were going to legitimately give him a chance to win the title and actually drop the title to R-Truth, I would love that. This is a non-title match, so that's not going to even happen. It is what it is. I guess it's just going to cement John Cena as more of a heel to have him just beat up R-Truth.
Yeah.
And continue to try to ruin wrestling for everybody. And by the way, I'm going to say this too, because people keep going online and saying, the matches for John Cena have been intentionally bad, and the finishes have been intentionally copy-paste because he promised that he was going to ruin wrestling for everybody. So all of this is actively being done to ruin wrestling for people. Therefore, John Cena is a genius. And I'm like, I don't believe that for a second. I think you all are giving John Cena way too much credit here. I think it was kind of lousy, lazy booking, and they can try and say it's this real meta thing that we're doing because we're trying to ruin professional wrestling for everybody. Then I'm like, no, I think it's John Cena's 47 years old, and he's not like an AJ Styles 47 where AJ can still move really well. And I think Randy Orton's in his 40s too, and they kind of had a slow plotting match at Backlash that wasn't awesome, and then they just copy pasted the finisher. But I don't think it was for anything as meta and as planned and meticulous as everything that we're going to do is going to be to make John Cena's guarantee about ruining professional wrestling like true on this meta level. I'm like, no, I think he's older and they're being lazy with their choices. But what do you think, Big D?
So I can see that. I can see where that can come across that way. But as far as this match goes, in my opinion, not that I think this, not that I'm saying this is exactly what should happen, but this is how I feel. I feel that this should be a squash match.
It should.
I feel this should end in a disqualification, not because John Cena cheats, but because he just lays into R-Truth and doesn't stop when the ref tries to get him to break it up. I think that this should be brutal. This should be the statement, right? This should be, because everyone loves R-Truth. We all love R-Truth. We all love him. So what better way to cement yourself as an uber heel than to take like our favorite guy, who's our happy-go-lucky guy, and just beat him to a pulp, and just to the point where you get disqualified and you don't care because it's not even a title match. You just show up and just beat him down. I think that's what should happen, because if you want to push John Cena as a heel, that's the way I would picture it happening. Again, I know that may not be the plan. I'm sure this will have a little more serious side of R-Truth, so we might see more of a K-Quick coming out versus instead of an R-Truth.
Yeah.
Oh, because that's K-Quick is who R-Truth was prior to becoming R-Truth. That's when he first debuted, and he was a serious wrestler. And he's actually, people forget, he's actually a really good wrestler. He just likes to have fun. So I think we're going to see a more serious side of R-Truth, but I feel that what should happen is this should just be no contest. John Cena should just tear into him and get DQ'd for it. But as far as his bookings, I can see what people are saying, but for me, I feel like John Cena, not that he gets gas because he's an athlete, but I feel that there's I've always heard from other superstars and other wrestlers that there's a difference between being physically in shape for like movies and like sports and stuff, and then being in ring shape for wrestling. Like, that's a whole other animal, and it's hard. There's a reason a lot of wrestlers at this age would have already retired back in the day. They would have already retired. There's a reason Undertaker, as great and as amazing and phenomenal as he is, I still say is because he's a great guy. it's harder as the years go by to put together these matches because it's just difficult because it's a very physically demanding feat.
Yeah. You're right.
So I can see that maybe John and whoever else he's going up against, they're trying to put up the best match they can while keeping up the pro wrestling thing. I think the ruining pro wrestling shtick is geared more towards not giving the fans what they want. So like not giving them the jumbotron entrance, not giving them the loud colors, not giving them the predictability or like the, oh yeah, the good guy is gonna win. That's what I see as him ruining professional wrestling, is
Yeah.
him not respecting the title, wearing it backwards, him walking to the ring instead of running, showing no desire to pander to the fans. That's, in my opinion, how he's doing the ruined pro wrestling.
No, I agree. I think that that's correct. I think it's a cop out for them to say that
I
the
agree.
finishes were bad and copy paste is bad. It's like,
It's
you
just bad
can't say
booking.
that that's
I
part of
mean,
it. Part of it is he's a part-time guy now at this point, and he can't bump around like he used to. If you don't do it full time, there's a huge difference
I think
in
people need
what
to
you can get
understand that
into.
that's not a knock at John Cena. I think
No,
people
it
hear
isn't.
it and they think we're just trying to talk trash on John. We're not. I love John Cena. He's awesome.
I love
But
John Cena. Like
yeah,
I said, I used to have, when I was a younger man, I had the Doctor of Thugonomics theme. Word Life was my ringtone. I love John Cena, and I loved him. I loved him when he was Doctor of Thugonomics, and I respect what he's done. It's just you have to be honest about the fact that he's at his age now that he can't do it like he used to. And when you put him in there with somebody who can't really carry him as much, Randy Orton's great, but he's also older.
yeah.
R-Truth is
Well,
in his
he's
50s.
also recovering from injuries. He's also recovering from injuries
Yeah,
himself. Like Randy
Randy's
Orton
recovering from
matches tend to be
injuries.
shorter for that reason.
And then R-Truth has tended to be in tag matches because R-Truth, to his credit, he looks phenomenal, but he's in his 50s. So I mean, this is where I agree, like, because of kind of the state of both they're at, have him come out here and squash and brutalize R-Truth, and then maybe have, like, because Jimmy did like the backstage stuff with
Yeah,
R-Truth, right, where he was like,
yeah,
maybe have Jimmy run out and try and help, and then John Cena brutalize Jimmy, and then you get Cody Rhodes coming back. Like you do the Cody Rhodes return at Saturday Night, where he runs out and he's like, I've got to stop John Cena. And you kind of reintroduce him going to the aid of R-Truth, trying to help out.
yeah.
I feel like there's a potential there that
Right.
could happen. But yeah, it shouldn't be a long drawn out match between the two of them. It's like just have him go out there and just brutalize him, and then you kind of you step up his heelness is not just him making fun of people anymore, and now he's more of a brutal heel and it's more mean spirited. So and
How
he's more
cool?
dangerous and more of a threat.
How cool would it be? This is wrestling nerd me talking. How cool would it be? Like you have R-Truth come out to his old like K-Quick theme song, and he in his old ring gear, and then John Cena comes out as Doctor of
Dr.
Thugonomics,
Comics, yeah. Oh, he's not going to do that.
and
That
then
would
uses the
be,
word and then uses the word life rings to
yeah.
like bust them open. Just saying.
That would be awesome. I know he's not going to do
I
it.
know
He's
it's
already
not.
said
I know.
we're not giving us. He's not giving us anything.
Damn you, John Cena.
After this, we had Aleister Black versus Carmelo Hayes 2. It's a
Yeah.
rematch from the previous week. This one was solid again. The Miz had a lot of interference here, including jumping in to intercept the Black Mass, which resulted in a DQ win for Aleister Black. And then they had the beatdown after that, where Carmelo Hayes managed to hit the nothing but net and then stand tall here. So continuing this feud,
Yeah.
solid stuff, but it was just kind of more just checkbox continuing
It's
to
disappointing
reintroduce
that
Aleister Black.
it's disappointing for the 50-50 booking that they're doing here. I feel that I know that, but here's why it's disappointing, because you know that once they give them like a full on regular match, it's gonna be an amazing match. It's gonna be a high caliber, like just it's gonna be a barn burner. Like I guarantee you that. But I guess we just gotta be patient and wait for that build.
Yeah, we'll have to. And then after this was the men's Money in the Bank qualifier match, was what came on after this, and that was Solo versus Jimmy versus Ray Phoenix. This one was a solid one. You did have Solo hit the Samoan spike on Ray Phoenix in advance, which I'm like, stop having Ray lose. So, but somebody had to take the loss. I was thinking it was going to be Jimmy, but it wasn't. And he does advance to Money in the Bank, which I think is good. I think having Solo in the men's Money in the Bank match, it adds a little bit of intrigue to it. He's
Yeah,
talked about he wants to win the title back for the family.
right.
He's still on that path, and
Yeah.
now he's going to be an entrant in
I
men's
mean,
Money in the Bank.
it's on par with
Yeah,
what his character's trying to do, you know.
yeah.
So
But then at the tail end of this, you had LA Knight came out and attacked JC, and then you had Nick Aldis do his thing where he comes out and goes, "You want a piece of JC? We're going to do it right now. Get me a referee." And then we had JC
wasn't there already a
Mateo.
ref in the ring?
I know. I thought there was already a ref. Yeah, I
He's
guess
like,
you
nah,
were
I
into the
did my
back.
match. I'm out. Bye.
He's like, we can't have union rules say they can't do 2 matches in a row. So yeah, JC versus LA Knight, which was way too competitive for me. In a debut match against it's JC versus a top tier guy who's the megastar, former US champion. They're continuing to build him out. You obviously had interference
Mm-hmm.
from Solo being ringside, and Jacob was there at ringside. So you had interference from Bloodline 2.0, but he still kind of beat LA Knight more so off of a distraction, where LA Knight kind of was like pointing and turned around. And then he did a scoop power slam. The Tour of Islands is his finisher, and then beat LA Knight. Basically, I'll call it a clean win because I feel like the ropes distraction one is like nobody hit him,
That's
nobody did
typical.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty typical. So I'm like, you seriously jobbed out LA Knight to a debuting JC Mateo. What are you doing to LA Knight here? Like I absolutely hated this. Like I get that you want to put him over out the gate. Don't use LA Knight for that. Like do
I
something else.
I feel like I feel like maybe this may lead to LA Knight being drafted over to Raw since the draft is coming up soon.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
he'll get
hope
drafted
so.
over to Raw, and then he can go have a run at the Intercontinental title. That'll be nice. Yeah, I honestly I didn't know how I felt. Obviously, you want Jeff Cobb to win his debut match. You
Yeah, he
want to
should. He should
cement him
absolutely win.
as a the monster that he is. But it's a bummer. Somebody had to take the pin,
Well,
but
somebody does, but I'm
it's
like, there's
business.
plenty of folks that could have taken this. Like I didn't like the way that it was done because again, it's a setback for LA Knight.
Yeah.
Like he should not have lost here, and if he did, it should have been more egregious. Like they really should have had him hit the Samoan spike when the referee wasn't looking. Solo like get him,
Mm.
and then JC, but then that makes JC look weak. So you
Mm-hmm.
can't do that.
So
So
they want him to
I
look strong.
I wasn't happy with who they chose here, but it is what it is. And JC Mateo, Jeff Cobb, Mr. Cobb won. Main event was Tiffany Stratton versus Nia Jax, kind of quietly the main event for the
I know,
women's
right? That was yeah.
championship. Like I didn't feel like this really got enough hype heading into it. This was a really good match. It was one of those things of a few things happened here that I was okay with and then not happy with and then I thought was cool. So you did have Naomi out at one point with a steel chair to kind of interfere. Jade came out and interfered with Naomi, which led to the finish. Prior to this, though, you had Nia kick out of the prettiest moonsault for the first time ever. This move has been kicked out of. You and I talk about this all the time about hate getting finishers getting kicked out of. I wish they hadn't done that. I wish they hadn't done that for the reason that they've done such a great job of protecting the prettiest moonsault as this devastating finisher, and then you had on an episode of SmackDown, Nia Jax just kick out of it pretty easily. So I wasn't happy with that. And of course, they made a big deal. Joe Tessitore was like, "Oh, this is the first time." It's like, yeah, this like you ended the streak. You should have kept protecting this finisher, and they didn't. And then you had not a kick out, but I enjoyed this where Nia was going up for the Tiffany for some reason, which was a terrible idea. Tried to powerbomb her off of that. And then, of course, she just sat straight down on top of her, which looked completely brutal. But then
Yeah.
Tiffany reaching up and grabbing the top or grabbing the rope. And I'm thinking, yeah, why wouldn't everybody just do that? You're right there underneath the ropes. She should never be able to, unless she knocks you unconscious with it, she should never be able to finish you with the
Because
Annihilator. You
I
can
think
always grab the rope.
I think usually the way her legs are, they're blocking the arms. It's like
Yeah.
Yokozuna's Banzai drop. He usually has his feet over their shoulders so they can't
Yeah.
like
Well,
reach.
she just like squashed her straight down and off of the power bomb, but she was able to reach out and grab the rope, which I thought was cool. Like that was
Yeah.
neat, where it wasn't like she didn't kick out of it, still protected it, but she's so close to the rope, she grabbed the
Yeah.
rope, and then yeah, ended up leading to the finish after you had Naomi out and Jade out and brawling. So Nia goes and gets the chair and brings it in. And the finishing spot was Tiffany with the back turn, ran and kind of drop kicked the chair. She'd like the little short drop kick of the chair into Nia's forehead and head and face. And
Busted her
it looked
clean up.
brutal when it
Yeah.
happened. Like as soon as
Yeah.
it happened, I was like, oh man, like it looked terrible.
Yeah.
Busted her open immediately. As soon as she laid down, like blood just pouring down her
Yeah.
head. And then Tiffany hit the second prettiest moonsault, picks up the win, retains the title. That was absolutely freaking brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal chair shot. Clearly, it was incidental. I'm not sure who to blame there for that one. If it was Nia just not holding the chair securely enough, because she basically kicked it right out of her hands and it came back into her head. But she laid into it. Like Tiffany really like She
Well,
hit
maybe
that chair hard.
it could have been a number of things. I mean, one, it could have been it could have been planned, or
Yeah.
it could have been maybe not having the chair far away enough from her face, or it could have been maybe she went too forward while because Tiffany was probably going to kick it at full force
Yeah.
anyway.
And she did. She
Yeah,
just laid into
she
that
gave
chair.
it all she could. That looked bad. Like instantaneously, you could just see like, Jesus, that was nuts.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
you could
that
hear
was
you heard the crack, and I was
yeah,
like, man, that's and as soon as it connected, this busted her wide open. And I
yeah,
was
it
like,
was
man, that
instant.
was like
Yeah.
rough. So never like to see head chair shot after with all the CTE stuff. I'm always like, and then of course they banned head chair shots, and this really wasn't an intentional head, just worked out that
No,
way.
this was just a spot that maybe just not that it was botched. I just think that, well, I guess you could call it a botch. It
Yeah,
just,
I mean, if
I
anybody
mean, it
gets
is what it
hurt,
is.
somebody messed up somewhere.
Yeah, Nia Jax posted on Twitter or Instagram or X, sorry, X or Instagram. I think she posted a picture, so she's fine.
Yeah, she's okay,
She's
which
fine.
is good. But yeah, she posted it like kind of backstage with all
Yeah,
blood on her face, but it was pretty brutal. But this was a really good match. I tend to rag on Nia Jax a lot, but this
she's
one I
gotten
thought
so
was a
much
lot of
better.
fun.
I
She has got
feel
a lot better. Yeah,
like she really has. So
gotta give her credit.
I enjoyed this match. I enjoyed this match. I liked it. I get the kicking out of the prettiest moonsault ever was not ideal, but at the same time, it is Nia Jax that we're talking about, right? Like, she's supposed to be like the ultimate heel, right? The ultimate bad guy. But I really enjoyed the match. I thought it was good. That finish was insane. Of course, you had the shenanigans come in, but which they telegraphed because when Nia Jax was like walking to the ring, you just saw like Naomi standing there awkwardly in the back,
Yeah,
just like looking. I wonder what's
yeah.
gonna happen.
I know. It's like, oh, wait a minute. So yeah, not too subtle on that, but great finish to the show. So solid
Yeah.
show from SmackDown.
So setting up Saturday night's main event, we
Yeah.
have 4 matches so far. I think they're missing one.
Yeah.
They have Jey Uso versus Logan Paul, CM Punk and Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, John Cena, R-Truth, and Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre steel cage match. So we'll see if we get more matches, but I mean that was the layout, so we'll see.
Yeah. Seems like a pretty full card. And with that, that's all we got for this week. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate the support as always, everybody. And we'll see you talk about Saturday Night Main Event next week. So until then, I've been Michael D'Angelo. He's been Big D Daryl Ortiz. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you soon.